Hi, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us in another Student Zone session. We're really excited to have you here. Before we get started, I wanted to remind you all of the Microsoft Code of Conduct, which is our code of conduct for all of our digital events, specifically Build. I am very excited to introduce to you Stanley Goldman. Stanley is a senior software engineer at GitHub. We actually used to work together building GitHub integrations for client applications. And today, Stanley is going to be talking to you about GitHub. Stanley, I'll send it to you.
Hi, I'm Stanley Goldman. I work at GitHub as a senior software engineer, and I'm on the GitHub Actions team. I've been programming professionally for almost 20 years now. My first job out of high school was programming in Visual Basic 6, and I've been very much a .NET programmer that whole time. I'm also into programming as a hobby, chess and running. I have a 4-month-old daughter named Ada. I've recently gotten into photography. This is a picture that is a focus stacking, so it's 5 pictures that are actually taken that are superimposed on each other. But the real reason I'm into photography is because of this little girl, Ada, who is my 4-month-old daughter and getting me to take a lot of pictures. But let's get on with why we're here. Someone has already asked, what is GitHub and what do we do with it? GitHub is a collaboration platform where people can get together and not only work on code, but work on anything that interests them. What do we do with it? Well, let's take a tour through that now. So the first thing I'm going to do is create a repository on GitHub. I'm skipping the part where we register for GitHub and we sign in because it's sometimes a little complicated and I'm a GitHub employee, so it's definitely harder for me. But after you get into GitHub and you're on the home page, you can definitely go ahead and click New on a repository. So I'm going to create a repository right now with no template, and I'm just going to name it Student Zone. I can see here that the name is available, and just for this example, I'm going to initialize the repository with a README. So here we are, we're in our repository, and the README is what we're actually seeing. It's our first file here, and it's displayed right up front. A README is something that is always encouraged in a repository on GitHub. It's where you go to write what your project is about, who's working on it. You reference your code of conduct. This is all where it all happens. And a README is written in a markup language called Markdown. Markdown is intentionally made to be extremely simple. It's made so that way you can read it as plain text, and if you need to make it look pretty, it generates HTML almost automatically. So I'm going to hit the edit button here, right here on README, and we'll write some Markdown together. So as you can see, it's basically plain text. If I go to preview changes, it looks a little bit prettier. So back on edit file. So the things you can do with Markdown. Let's dive into it. So to make things italic, it's an underscore. Bold, it is 2 stars around the word.
Stanley, can you zoom in a little more?
Sure.
Thanks.
How's that?
Perfect.
Cool. So as you can see, as I'm working on the file, I can always just hit preview changes, and I can see the text that I typed in right there next to us. So italic text is with underlines, bold text is with stars. You can also mix them, right? So underline this, bold that. Headers. So every document needs a header and a subheader and possibly subheaders. So pound symbol is how you create a header. So there's a main header for the top level ones, also 2 for subheaders, 3 for a header subheader. And we can go to the preview, and as we type, we can just simply see that the HTML is being generated from our Markdown. There's a few other tricks. We can also include links like this. So you put the text in square brackets and the link parentheses after it. And everything here works together, right? So if I were to put the 2 stars around the GitHub, when I go to see my link, GitHub here is bolded just as I did in the text. You also have block quotes. Block quotes are pre-formatted, so they're really good for writing code into. So here, public static void main, not that I'm doing anything with it, but when you preview it, you kind of see that the original formatting that you gave inside of block quotes remains. You also have, whoops, wrong button. You also have plain quotes, as in you're quoting someone else, right? So, right? So a simple quote like that would show up just like it would quote it in the email. What else? Lists. Lists are very simple on Markdown. They're simply just that. So this is a bulleted list. As well as a numbered list. They also support nesting. So if I head over to the preview, you'll see it's just as I intended, right? Yeah, and on top of that, it's always mixable, right? So I can underline the word item here with underscores or bold, add links, etc. Images are one thing that I just realized I forgot. So images, for instance, look very much like links, except you just put an exclamation point in front of the text, and it tries to treat whatever you send it as an image. So right here, we have a tiger from Wikipedia. Paragraphs will be the last thing. So if you've noticed, I've been putting one extra line in between intentionally. Because you're writing in text, it's assumed that if you don't put an extra space, that it's all one paragraph. So all this content here will be in one paragraph, except this will be in the second paragraph. And so if I go in and preview that, you see, even though I had a new line here, the text is all in one paragraph, and this second paragraph is off by itself. And this is all of Markdown. Now you kind of might wonder why Markdown is important. When I started programming so many years ago, I never knew that I would spend more time writing in English to other programmers and to other people than I would actually spend writing actual code. I would have never believed that. Now that it's a reality, Markdown definitely makes it a whole lot easier to communicate and work with things with your team. So I'm going to hit commit, and that's going to commit directly to the main branch called master on this repo. And so going back to the main page, you can see I have 2 commits, the initial commit and the update readme. That's really cool. But we all did this from github.com, right? It would be a lot more useful if we could do this locally on our computers. And so for that, we have something called GitHub Desktop. GitHub Desktop you can get at desktop.github.com. Download it, install it for your system, and it will help you get your machine authenticated to GitHub, which again is another step that I skipped over here. So I'm going to clone that repository that I just created. Normally, you could just filter the repository and pick it out of the list, but I work for GitHub. I have a lot of repositories in my account, so I can't just use this all the time. I have to type it in. So my username is Stanley Goldman, and the repo I just created was called Student Zone. So I'm cloning it right here to my desktop, hitting clone, and there we go. So GitHub Desktop finds that I have Visual Studio Code on my computer, and it actually even helps me out by letting me open the code right there with Visual Studio Code. All right. And so here I am. Here's my README. Here's everything we just typed in. I'm completely up to date with what we have on github.com. Visual Studio Code, which I'm sure you've heard a lot about today, is really cool, has a lot of extensions. One that I do like is the Markdown preview extension. It lets you see what the Markdown is going to look like when it's pretty as you're writing. So here I am, I have my stuff in Visual Studio Code. Let's just make a very simple change really quickly, right? I don't know what to make. Let's just duplicate this tiger. So I put 2 tigers, and I'll skip a line and put 2 more tigers. No reason. Save my changes, close up Visual Studio Code. Now let's actually commit our changes. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a new branch right here. Remember last time when I was making this change on github.com, I committed the changes to the master branch. I'm going to use a work branch. Normally when you're working as a programmer, you don't commit directly to the main branch. You commit to a patch branch and you send a pull request, right? So let's create a branch right here. Stanley patch. Yep, create the branch, bring my changes over to Stanley patch, and update README, update with tigers. So I'm putting that in as my commit message, and I'm letting it rip. So now it's committed. It's locally in my GitHub database. I still have to publish it to github.com, which is also right here in GitHub Desktop. All right, so now it's pushed, and GitHub Desktop is really awesome in that it prompts you for the next step, which is creating a pull request. So if I hit this, it brings me right to the create a pull request page on github.com for my repo. I can just say it automatically took the commit message update with tigers. So pull request with creating the pull request. Now what a pull request is, it is a way for other people, your collaborators in your project, to look at the changes that you're proposing and give you feedback on them. Maybe they might tell you something like, we could use 1 less tiger. And so when they give you that feedback shows up on your pull request page for you to either argue with them or fix whatever they're telling you. When they're done and when everybody's done approving it, we merge a pull request and we're all set and good to go. Our changes are now on the main branch. So if I go look at the repo, we now have 4 tigers. So what did we just do? We created a repo on github.com. We learned how to write Markdown. We learned about the README. We committed our changes on github.com. We cloned a repo using GitHub Desktop to our desktop, made changes in VS Code, committed them, started a pull request, merged the pull request. And that was pretty much the flow that I was looking to show you guys here on github.com. We do have some other resources for you to go take a look at and make sure you follow. Desktop.github.com is where we just got that tool. Also, there is education.github.com. It is a great resource for students as well as teachers. If you check out the GitHub Student Developer Pack, it has things that you can use as long as you can prove you're a student, right? So you can get a free domain off name.com. You can get platform credits on many a thing. You can get JetBrains IDEs, as well as you can get a free GitHub Pro account. There's also the GitHub Campus Experts program, which is kind of a way to be an ambassador for GitHub at your local school. There's also lab.github.com, which is our learning lab. Lets you do things like learn more about GitHub, learn how to use GitHub Actions, which is the team I work on, more about Markdown, and other automated projects that are there to help you learn. You can follow me on Twitter. My username is StanProgrammer, and you can also play me on chess.com. That's also my username too. Sarah?
Thank you so much. We had a couple of questions. I was hoping maybe you could show us a couple of things. So one thing that I was hoping that you could show us was what do you do if you've made a commit and then you didn't mean to make that commit?
Okay, that's a very classic problem. What is great and hard about Git is that there are a lot of ways of saving or fixing the problem or saving the situation. Sometimes you want to make a commit where you just undo what you just committed. There are also commands that let you forcibly change the commit locally and forcibly push it back up to github.com and overwriting your changes. There's no right and wrong way. There's just a lot of ways of doing it.
Awesome. Yeah, so one way of doing this is through a terminal, one way is through GitHub Desktop, one way is through the browser interface. There are some docs out there.
We can try if you'd like.
Sure, if you wouldn't mind showing us.
Okay. Hopefully I don't mess up. So let me give it a shot.
The beauty of live.
So on GitHub Desktop, if we go to history, we go here, update with tigers. So GitHub Desktop by default kind of gives you this, right? It gives you a commit where it simply undoes what you did. And yeah, it already did it and committed it and publish. And there we go. It's already undone. What someone might say is that they didn't want it there. Like they don't. Sometimes people get embarrassed about their mistakes. You really shouldn't. It's part of learning. And there are commands to undo it. The command you're looking for in particular is reset hard. And maybe we can do it now. If I can open a terminal wheel here. Right. So open a command prompt. So the way to actually do it would be git reset -- hard head tilde 2. It would be tilde 1 would get me here, 2 gets me there, right? So git reset as a command to.
Could you zoom in on that terminal?
So git reset as a command that lets you undo your changes, or lets you do a lot of types of things. A hard reset is literally that. It's an undo. And head tilde 2, head is where we are currently, and tilde 2 means go back to. So if I do that, I go back here, you see we're back here now, update readme.md. So yeah, that's another way that you can, undo your changes.
Awesome. One quick question, the difference between a pull request and pushing or pulling, like pushing and pulling and then a pull request. What?
Sure. So pulling is the process of downloading all the latest changes to your local desktop. Pushing is the process of pushing all those changes to a remote server, in this case, github.com. A pull request is a GitHub thing where you create the pull request, actually itself. You create the pull request and it is a request to merge a branch into another branch. Usually you're merging from your branch where you're doing your work into the master branch where you're saving all your stuff.
Yeah, that was actually one thing when I first started working at GitHub. I didn't fully understand pull requests, like the name of it didn't really make sense. And someone explained it, I think it was you actually, Stanley, who explained it to me as you are requesting to have the master branch pull your changes in.
Yep, that's
so it's a request to pull your changes in. Awesome. One other question, why would we use GitHub rather than cloud storage like OneDrive or Dropbox?
Okay, OneDrive and Dropbox offer revision history, right? So in other words, they show you a file that has changed as it was, and the difference is that the changes are opaque. When you're looking at it in GitHub, you can see exactly the lines that were changed. When you're using something like OneDrive, it's like the file was updated. And you may not have a very clear understanding as to what changed in the file. When you're looking at a pull request in GitHub, you actually get this view, which I can share my screen again and show you, but it shows you a view where it says this line is green because someone added it, or this line is red because someone removed it. That's what you don't get from cloud services like that.
Yep. Is it beneficial to do a pull request if you're working by yourself?
Yeah, I do that. I have side projects where I work by myself and I send myself pull requests. The idea is that it keeps you a little bit targeted, right? Usually when you're sending someone a pull request, you don't want to, if you're working on a house, you don't want to say, hey, I have changes to my bedroom, I have changes to the kitchen, and I did a thing in the bathroom. Like, it's usually better if you just say, well, these are my changes to my kitchen is here in this pull request, and changes to my bathroom are here in this pull request, etc. Bad metaphor, but you get the idea, right? Someone gets to see a small piece of your overall vision and just kind of focus in on what you're trying to change right there and give feedback to that. So once you start working that way with other people for so long, it kind of becomes second nature to do that for yourself. Why wouldn't you want to focus your thoughts onto one particular set of changes, one particular feature, one particular option that you wanted to achieve in your program, and kind of focus in on that alone and leave bugs and other things that you come across that aren't really important for other pull requests.
Yep, that's a great way. I also like to think about it as, pull requests can be really great for collaborating, as Stanley has described to us. Imagine though that you're writing a program and you leave it for a week or two or whatever. You get sick or you go on vacation, or maybe it's a project that you start and you come back to a year later. I guarantee you're not going to remember why and when and how and what you did. Just try it. If you're doing a bunch of other stuff in between, it's not likely that you're going to remember. So you can treat it as collaborating with yourself as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome. Another question was, what is the norm in terms of getting a pull request reviewed or approved?
I guess the norm also depends on who you're working with. If you're in a company and you're all on Slack or Teams and you can just all message each other, then you would probably just send the pull request over to them that way. If you are contributing to an open source project, usually someone will see the notifications in GitHub. I recently sent a pull request to the AWS C# SDK, and I had to actually find the developer on Twitter and poke them and say, hey, I'm sending you this pull request. I don't think you've noticed it yet. And yeah, they'll usually respond to you if they're a good maintainer, if it's an active project, if they have the time. Yeah, they either notice it on GitHub or sometimes you have to hunt them down.
Yep. Another question on how might you resolve a merge conflict?
Ooh. Okay. Merge conflicts are, so let me explain what a merge conflict is first, right? Merge conflict occurs when two people are changing the same thing, right? So if in our example, I was adding a third tiger and Sarah was taking away one of my tigers, and we both sent pull requests to get put in. The pull request that goes in first would win, so to speak, right? So if Sarah's pull request got accepted first, one of the tigers would be removed. But then my pull request would have a merge conflict in that my changes were not based on Sarah's changes, and Sarah's changes are now in the main branch. So I have to change my pull request to reflect what she did. You can solve a pull request in GitHub Desktop. I haven't done it with GitHub Desktop. I do it with the command line myself. I'm pretty sure GitHub Desktop gives you a way of looking at it, and I have to get back to you guys on that. I'm pretty sure it's supported within GitHub Desktop. You can definitely fix a merge conflict on github.com as well.
Yeah, definitely. I used the github.com merge conflict fixer the other day for our aka.ms/students@build GitHub repo.
Yeah.
It's extremely useful. I will say this is an example. These docs right here show an example of a merge conflict. And basically what will happen, whether you're on github.com or desktop or in the browser, anything that is unresolvable by the software, so they can't figure out which one you want, that will appear in these kind of like less than and greater than and equal than signs. And so everything that is on the original that you're trying to merge into will be in the head, and anything that is your code will be down below the equal sign, and then you can choose which one did you want and make those changes and basically save those files.
That's cool. I don't often do it that way. The reason why I was like a little bit blindsided is that you can do everything in Git your own way, and I have integrated with Beyond Compare on my computer, so my changes just open up in there. And really, what fixing a merge conflict is saying this line is how it should look when we're done, and that's all you're actually telling the Git program.
Yep. How do you check out code so that other people don't work on the same piece of code?
So some source controls, in other words, not Git, have a way of saying, I'm working on this file and no one else should touch it. Git doesn't do that. It's called I think it's called optimistic locking. No, it's not called optimistic locking. Don't mind me. I think it's just called locking. And yeah, that's not supported in Git. Git prefers that you have a merge conflict and work through the merge conflict. And if you think about it, there's good reason. If somebody's able to lock a file, you can't work asynchronously. You have to go find that person. You have to get them to unlock the files, then you can even touch it. And that really kind of kills the async workflow that is really popular on github.com. And yeah, I mean, for instance, like the team that me and Sarah worked on, I live in New York. Sarah lived in California, and we had team members in Italy, in Denmark. So yeah, there were people up at all times of the day working on our stuff, and we couldn't afford to have someone locking things. And so yeah, it's just not a thing of Git.
Yep. This one is, can you use GitHub version control for Python notebook files? And if you don't know, Stanley, I've got an answer for this one.
Well, off the bat,
these are like Jupyter notebook files.
Yeah, off the bat, you can pretty much store anything in Git. Anything that's text-based is really easy to store in Git. You don't want to start putting your photos in Git because it's not text-based, it's binary, and Git isn't that great at binary, but there are ways to work with binary in Git. So even short answer is yes, you can definitely store your stuff and control the changes in a Git repo.
Yep.
What were you gonna say?
And if you didn't know, GitHub will actually render Jupyter notebook files. So this is actually a Jupyter notebook file, for example, and it does render it. If we look at the raw file, we can see all of the extra like markdown that creates the cells and all of that. So one concern can be when you make changes, it's hard to identify those changes if you're looking at this kind of raw version of the file. But GitHub will actually allow you to see those changes in this like pretty view when you are looking at a pull request, looking at an attempted merge, basically. So yes, you can do this, and there is a way to like prettily view this on GitHub.
Yeah, I forgot that. There are also like a few other like little hidden Easter eggs in GitHub. Like if it's a 3D model file, it'll render the 3D model file pretty too. There are a few other little minor little Easter eggs in that viewer. Yeah, I forgot that one.
Yeah. Do you have an opinion on Visual Studio, or sorry, Azure DevOps versus GitHub?
I work for the GitHub Actions team, and so I guess I kind of do. That's a hard question to answer. GitHub Actions is definitely very versatile. I quite like using it. I set it up recently to help me build my Yugo blog for myself. You can get other actions and other plugins, quote unquote, from other GitHub users to use in your workflow. GitHub Actions is definitely pretty cool. I think it's where things are going in the future.
Awesome. Well, we're pretty much at time. And one thing that I wanted to mention is that there is a survey. So please fill this out. We'll be pasting the survey in the Q&A. Make sure that you put in our session code COM203. The purpose of the survey is for us to make sure that we're building the content that you want to see. And in addition to that, there is also all of our resources, aka.ms/students@build. We recommend that you check out that GitHub repo because we'll be pasting all of our resources there. I'll be going through this chat and finding any of the popular questions and adding them there into the Q&A. And the video of this session will also be available there after build. So I want to thank you, Stanley, so much. I muted you on accident, so if you want to say thank you, and thank you everyone for attending.
Thanks.